Hey, I'm Randy Younger, New York City's go to film enthusiast. Every week, I dive deep into the world of cinema with special guests from the New York City film scene. Whether I'm interviewing industry insiders or comparing the latest releases, there's always something for every movie lover. Join me as I explore the magic of film and discover what makes these movies unforgettable. Hey guys, I'm Randy Younger, and this is a special edition of Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. And I have a very special guest with me today, filmmaker of the new film Christmas Eve in Miller's Point, Mr. Tyler Taormina. Hey Tyler, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you. But the film is wonderful. Thank you for giving us this early Christmas gift. Tell everyone, how did this project originally come about?
Yeah, basically it began, or one of the germinating seeds was a night where it was my parents' 30th wedding anniversary, and they decided to watch their wedding tape for the first time in 30 years. And we watched it outside one night and in the summertime, and it was actually one of the most powerful cinematic experiences I've ever had, actually. It was really emotional to see my family interact with a ritual and in a way that I could see time so clearly, the way it's changed so much. And um, on that night, I oddly felt like, oh, I'm in the right vocation here doing cinema. This is really
Right.
the path for me. And I think I kept that experience with me, thinking about how partying through time uh, is so emotional. When I was uh, first germinating on making a film about my own family Christmas party.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. The history of the film, basically, it's an autobiographical account of your life, of your childhood, and that's pretty cool. It's very special.
In some ways, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really it's based on the feeling that those memories give of these
Mhm.
early Christmases. It's not actually like one to one in
Mhm.
most ways, actually, but except for the way that it feels and sort of the general premise, of this Italian American Long Island family getting together at night on Christmas Eve, a big group of people partying throughout the night. This is something I've experienced, yes,
Mhm.
but it's more about the impression that that experience has given me than it is about the literal
Mhm.
memories within them.
Of
Yeah.
course. And what was it like bringing that to the screen? Was it a challenging process?
Well, I mean, every part of the movie making process is horrible and great at the same time.
Right.
Really, it's every part is heaven and hell except writing. I think writing is
Hmm.
just good. It's just good for me. I just like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know,
Yeah.
what were the challenges? I mean, yeah, everything. I mean, I think one of the first challenges is that we tried to make the film through the Hollywood apparatus. After the relative success of my first film, Ham on Rye, I had some attention from Hollywood entities that I hadn't before. And although I knew the cautionary tales, um, as stated so wonderfully by Mark Duplass, that speech he gives at that South by Southwest, it's
Mm.
something that maybe you could hear those words and and say, okay, I'll take that advice. But I think you have to live through what this industry actually does to you to
Mm.
really know what he meant by all that, because it really
Mm.
seemed so real. It seemed like we were going to
Right.
make this movie. We had all these celebrities attached to it, and we had bids going on. We had a Hollywood agency packaging the film, and one of the bids was through an enormous studio. Whose, if the banner
Mm.
was at the beginning, it would have been a huge shock to me.
Mm.
And it was all there until 2 years later when I realized, like, whoa, nothing has happened. This is what they tell you. This is what he
Mm.
was talking about. And I
Yeah.
said, be gone, go away. And I found that the biggest challenge was actually realizing that no, this has to be done through my community of filmmakers and friends, and it's really the
Mm.
strength of Omnis Films as a collective of people supporting one another that allows, I think, interesting and ambitious films to be made. Collective
Right.
strength.
And talk a little bit about Omnis New Wave. I know that you guys are a close-knit group of artists. What was the beginning of all that? I know you were all in bands. I know that you
Yeah.
all have a love for music and comedy. What was the initial seed?
It's kind of like how I just mentioned. A lot of
Mhm.
us, we perceived of the film industry as this thing that we learned about from the 90s, where,
Right.
people actually do give budgets to these movies that can end up being these big exploding hits, which
Right.
was true in the 1990s. And I think that there was a little bit in our early 20s of like, well, let's find those people, those producers who will take risks on us. And I think after a few years, it was like, well, that's not going to happen. And it was through that same experience I just mentioned in the Christmas film that kind of, in a way, birthed Omnis, where we were saying, let's just make this Ham on Rye film our first feature,
Right.
and it was a crazy moment because we had all dreamed about making feature films all of our lives. Like that's actually the
Mm.
weird thing that connects us, is that we had this ambition to do film since we were children.
Mhm.
Uh, and when I suggested this to everyone, their eyes lit up like, oh shit. Like, is this it? Is this what it's like to make a feature? We made it out of pocket kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I think it really called us it called us forward to do our best work as a sort of transition into adulthood. Like it's our
Mhm.
time now. And we were so satisfied with the results, and the way the film was received was so gratifying that 7 films later, I think the momentum and the
Mhm.
belief in which we can instill in one another uh, is still going and growing even. So it's a beautiful thing.
I I love to hear all of that. The
Yeah.
collaborative spirit is really alive in you guys. It's so
Oh,
great.
yeah. Right on.
And I really just hope you make even more films, more great art, because this film is definite proof that you guys work brilliantly together, that you have great ideas, and that these are stories that need to be told.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, of course. So obviously the cast is huge in this film, and it's a true ensemble. Tell us, everybody, about the process of casting this film, and what was it like assembling each actor?
Mm, mm. Well, the way that Margot, the casting director, and I approached the process was basically two-pronged.
Wow.
One of them was sort of how I've been casting films, which is through these casting websites,
Okay.
where we looked at about 100,000 headshots. Just
Okay.
like I put the radius of New York area, like
Okay.
20, 30, maybe even more, 100 miles, I can't remember.
Oh my God.
And I looked at everyone. I looked at everyone in there. And if their headshot was remotely interesting, I would I would investigate them. Maybe have them send in a
Okay.
self-tape, and if that was interesting, I would bring them in. So it was really casting a wide net to find people who were interesting and had that sort of vulnerable spice to them,
Mm.
that's sort of a purity, which I believe in people. I believe people
All right.
can have purity to them,
Cool.
which I learned since making this film that not everyone believes that, which is
Mhm.
that's just the way we are, I guess.
Gotcha.
But the other part was just, and this is how a lot of the cast came in to the picture, was through just asking my friends and family, people I grew up with, teachers that I
Mm.
had when I was younger, and because again, I'm returning to my hometown to make this movie. Do you have anyone in your family or friends or network who would be interesting to be in this film? They don't have to have acting experience, although that could be
Right.
nice. They just have to be interesting. They have to have that sort of silliness and fun to them.
Okay.
And through this way, we found countless people in this film. I mean, my producer's mother and uncle are in the film in prominent roles.
Right.
Um, uh, it's how we have even Francesca Scorsese is a friend of
Right.
the ACs from school, and it's just a lot of the community kind of and maybe this is common for casting, but it felt especially right for this movie for it to be kind of coming from this sort of heart
Right.
of our team.
And what was it like casting Steven Spielberg's son?
Well, again, that was because my producer, Kristen Minto, worked with him on the previous
Mm.
film, and she was saying, you know, he's actually like one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet, and he would love to play with to play against type because we had this
Mm.
character for Splint who was he's like he Sawyer describes it as the ghost of Christmas past. He plays basically
Mm.
like the wayward drug addict in the
Right.
town who used to be in this hearth of the family Christmases and now is out far flung. Um,
Right.
so it was interesting to work with him because it was the only example that I could really think of where I wasn't casting them because they were exhibiting their most beautiful qualities, you know? I think, well, Sawyer, I think, is actually exhibiting what makes him so beautiful in that role, whether he knows it or not. But he's doing it through under the avalanche of snow that life could give a person.
Right. Okay. That's very, and again, the collaboration is there, and I love that you found a bunch of these actors, basically friends of friends. That's amazing. So I love that.
I should also credit
Um,
Michael Cera. Like he's a friend of
mhm,
mine and
mhm,
a wonderful, wonderful collaborator. Actually, in fact, my writing partner for this movie, Eric Berger, Michael and I have written a script that uh, could provide to be Michael's first directorial debut called Gummy.
mhm,
But
mhm.
Michael was so instrumental in bringing this cast together. I mean, for
Wow.
people that I wouldn't have been able to get in touch with myself, especially with the lack of these Hollywood institutions that I have previously stated that
Mhm,
I said fuck off.
mhm.
He was very generous in making the call, like, "Hi, I'm Michael Cera. Do you want to be in this movie?" You know, to like Ben Shankman or Greg Turkington, who was a friend of
Yeah.
his.
Okay. Cool. Um, Now, obviously, this is a holiday film. It's the wonderful dramedy set in Christmas time. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite holiday films?
Yeah. It's funny. I don't really I didn't do any research for this movie of holiday films. I didn't have to like it wasn't really like that, you know. But there are
Mhm,
some movies that I think are holiday films that I'm realizing have influenced not only this movie but every movie I've made and even the ones I'm conceiving of. Like I'm
mhm.
talking about films like Fanny and Alexander or Amarcord. Um,
Okay.
these are the movies that really they stick with me, and even if it's not with these Christmas components to those films, there's something about them that I find called to explore my own form. But
Yeah.
also like to give a more satisfying answer. I obviously if you watch this film, you see I love Home Alone. You know, like that movie
Cool.
is it's crazy to me, and we are also I think we're attempting to recreate sort of the aesthetics of that film
Right.
because it's a film about memory, and my memories of Christmas are painted by these movies like Home Alone or Christmas Vacation.
Right.
Um, I love Elf.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would even say Trading Places is so these movies, obviously they do take place during Christmas,
yeah,
but they focus on the characters and the complexities of all these relationships. Christmas is just in the background, and I think your film is also that because it really highlights the character, and that's what a true Christmas movie or any movie should do. So
mhm. Well, also, I noticed maybe further along into the whole process that Christmas is a genre, and part of that genre is returning home. Part of it
right,
is also, as Charles Dickens taught us, it's an existential thing. It's like opening your eyes to say, "Oh, this is my life. This is happening here and now, and I really need
right,
to be here for it because it's going to go really, really
right.
soon." So these themes, I think, are very natural to the holiday, and of course, through the movies and stories we tell about it, and I think they're right in the center
Right.
of this film.
Of course, well put, sir. Um, all right, so we're talking about favorite holiday films. I'm just curious, who are some of your filmmaker influences?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. There's a lot.
Yeah.
But I really do. I see these greats before me as like my aunts and uncles, and I hope that with all my heart, that I can make them proud. I'm thinking of
Hmm.
specifically someone like Robert Altman has been really instrumental, especially with the work he did in the '70s. Films like McCabe and Mrs. Miller and Nashville. I think
Yeah.
these movies really have spoken to me and in how I can orient sort of my own form of filmmaking.
All
They
right.
were sort of guiding lights. But I'm really driven also by like classic Hollywood, like 30s, 40s, like Douglas Sirk and Vincent Minnelli, which are big influences on this film.
All right.
I'm so taken by these '90s people,
Hmm.
Al Hartley and Greg Araki, and um, Lucretia Martel is one of my favorite filmmakers. I think that she has taught me a lot too about the intuitive sense of filmmaking and the
Okay.
atmospheric sense of filmmaking. It's a long. I could just go on. Ho Xiao Shen is one of the greatest of all time. Shame that he's not going to be
Okay.
making films anymore. Um,
I can tell the list is long for you, sir.
oh yeah, it'll keep going. We don't have time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, last question. Are there any other projects you're working on now that you can talk about?
Yeah, I'm working on a high school comedy,
Okay.
um, which is sort of a strange film called Rise of the Beta Cucks.
Okay.
And my collective, Omnis Films, we are looking to bring our next film, which is sort of ready out into the world,
Okay.
um, which is called Raccoon, and it'll be the directorial debut of Mike Basta.
Okay. Sounds good, man. I love it. I look forward to the next film because yeah, you're definitely a star on the rise. You have risen and you continue to rise. So
You're very
all right,
sweet.
Tyler,
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your time today. So Christmas Eve in Miller's Point will be released in theaters November 8th. So everybody go check that out. Tyler, thank you again, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
So I'm Randy Unger. This has been Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. We'll see you next time. Take care.